Hi everybody, so today I'm going to be talking about parathyroid hormone and basically how it's regulated. So let's go ahead and get started and let's talk about what parathyroid hormone does. Basically, parathyroid hormone is going to regulate the amount of calcium that's in your bloodstream or extracellular fluid, so therefore your muscles and your nerves can work properly. So this is what's going to happen, is when you have a decrease in calcium that's in the bloodstream or in the extracellular fluid, it's going to lead to an increase in parathyroid hormone, which is then going to do several different things, which we will go into, which is then going to lead to an increase in calcium that's in the blood. Okay, and now the exact opposite is going to happen when we have too much calcium. So if we increase the amount of calcium, that's going to lead to a decrease of the amount of parathyroid hormone that's produced and released, and that will lead to a decrease of calcium in the blood then. So, and these two are working nonstop as a balance, right? So it's not like one works for a while and then the other one works. They're constantly going back and forth. So let's go ahead and take a look at parathyroid hormone. And here's what's going to happen. Is in your throat, right behind your voice box, so your voice box or your larynx is right about here. Right below that is your thyroid gland. So I'm going to draw a thyroid gland. Okay. And this is going to be, it's a little asymmetrical. Let's try to make it a little bit closer. And there's my thyroid gland, okay? And on the back of the thyroid gland, I am going to have my parathyroid hormones. Now you can have up to 8 of these. Most people have about 4. So again, this is my parathyroid hormone or parathyroid gland. Okay, and this is going to make parathyroid hormone. So here's what happens is they used to not know these were here. And what they would do is they would do a thyroidectomy. So they take the whole thyroid out, and when they take the whole thyroid out, they would actually remove the parathyroid glands. And then people would start having symptoms such as cramping and things such as that. And eventually, some people actually even died. So they realized there must be something that's on this gland, in the thyroid gland, that they don't know about. And they started looking, then they found the parathyroid gland. It's actually hard to find because the cells in the parathyroid gland don't look much different than the cells in the thyroid. The nice thing about the parathyroid gland is, let's say someone has half their thyroid removed. What's going to happen is the 2 glands that are still left will produce enough of the parathyroid hormone, so that way the person will not see any symptoms and they should be able to function normally. The really cool thing is if we remove 3 of the 4 of the parathyroid glands, what will happen over time, the person will get some symptoms, but over time this will hypertrophy and become larger, and it will increase, it'll pick up for what the other 3 glands were producing, and therefore the person will get back to normal because they'll have enough parathyroid hormone. So let's take a look at this here, and there's basically 2 cells that we're concerned with. One is going to be called oxyphil cells, and the second one is going to be called chief cells. These are the 2 main cells that are in your parathyroid glands. Now, they're not quite sure what the oxyphil cells do, but what they think they are is they're chief cells that are no longer producing parathyroid hormone and have become basically inactive. So that's what they think these are. And the reason they think that is you don't find these in children, and animals don't have them either. They do know that the chief cells are going to go on and produce parathyroid hormone. So we're going to look at chief cells right now. So let's go ahead and erase this. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to draw a really big chief cell. So I'm going to draw a chief cell. Okay, and remember, you have a whole bunch of these. I'm just drawing one. You actually have a whole bunch of this. So this is one chief cell, but you do have many, many more. So now, on the chief cell, we're going to have a G protein coupled receptor, which is also known as a 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a 7 transmembrane receptor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show what happens when we don't have enough calcium. So I'm going to leave this receptor blank right now, as if there's nothing in, as if I don't have enough calcium. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a nucleus. So here's a nucleus. And then as we all know, inside the nucleus, I am going to have DNA. So here's my DNA. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend like this part of my DNA is actually the portion that has the genes that's going to make my parathyroid hormone. So let's go ahead and go like this. And let's say this is my gene now. It's going to make my parathyroid hormone. Well, what's going to happen when I need parathyroid hormone is I am going to make something called messenger RNA. And this is my messenger RNA right there. It's called transcription, if you remember. My messenger RNA is going to leave the nucleus, and it's going to go out to an organelle, which is called the ribosome. And the ribosome is actually going to take amino acids and put this together and start making a protein, which is going to go on to become my parathyroid hormone. From there, this is going to go to different things, but one of the places it's going to go is to my Golgi apparatus, or it's also known as my Golgi body. So this is going to be my Golgi apparatus, and that's going to put some finishing touches on it. And then it's going to put it inside of something called a secretory granule. That's my secretory granule. And now I'm going to have parathyroid hormone inside of here. Okay. Now, what may happen to some of the parathyroid hormone molecules is some of these may continue to be broken down. Not all of them, but some of them. And when they do, it's going to look something like this. I'm going to have two sides to this. So on one side, we're going to call this my C terminus. And on the other side, we're going to call this the N terminus. Now, if this gets broken down, what's going to happen is the N terminus is going to be the active side. But remember, not all of this is continually broken down. I can still have the whole molecule of my parathyroid hormone. So let's draw some parathyroid hormone in here, right? So now, this is what's going to happen next, is the secretory granule can fuse with this cell membrane, and then what it will do is it will release this parathyroid hormone into the bloodstream. Okay, so this is going to come out and go into the bloodstream. Okay, and so let's just draw it like this. Here comes my granules coming out, and it's in the bloodstream. Now remember, this is what happens when we don't have enough calcium. And I'll do another video about what happens once parathyroid hormone enters into the bloodstream. Now let's say that we have an increase in calcium, right? So now we've increased the amount of calcium that we have. Okay, so there's the calcium, and what's going to happen is calcium is going to bind with this receptor. Now, on this receptor, I'm going to actually have a protein attached, a G protein, which is G alpha Q, or we can just call it GQ. And the rumor is that this was actually named after GQ magazine because the guys who found it couldn't come up with anything to put behind it, any letters. The first part of the alphabet was already being used. They didn't want to use GZ because that was being used. They didn't like GX, so they just named it after GQ. Now that's a rumor. I'm not sure if that's true. What GQ is going to do is it's going to come over, and in this membrane here, we are going to have a molecule which we are going to call phospholipase C. This GQ is basically going to activate this phospholipase C. The phospholipase C will then convert another molecule, which we are going to call phosphatidylinositol biphosphate. It's going to convert this into two molecules. One of the molecules is going to be IP3 or inositol triphosphate, and the second one is going to be something we call diacylglycerol. And diacylglycerol stays attached to the cell membrane there. So what's going to happen now? Well, this IP3 is going to move inside the cytosol, and it's going to come to something called the endoplasmic reticulum, which I know you already know the endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, and inside the endoplasmic reticulum, we are going to have calcium. So I have my calcium inside my endoplasmic reticulum. So once again, this is my endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, so here's what's going to happen now. This is going to come down, and there's going to be a receptor on here. And my inositol triphosphate is going to bind onto this. And when it does, what's going to happen is it is going to release this calcium. Now, calcium can do two different things. One of the things it can do is it can go over and it can stop this parathyroid hormone from being released. Okay, so it can prevent parathyroid hormone from being released. And if parathyroid hormone is not released, it does not get into the bloodstream. Right, so it does not get into the bloodstream. The second thing it can do, and it knows it does something, not exactly sure what it does, but what this could do is actually come, and it may actually stop the translation here, so we do not make this messenger RNA. Or because remember, they're not quite sure what it does, or it might actually stop the this was transcription, so it may stop the transcription so we don't get messenger RNA, or it may stop the translation here so we don't get the proteins being made, right? So we're going to prevent this from being made, all right? So now, if we're not making parathyroid hormone, obviously we can't release it. So again, it can block transcription or translation. They're not sure which one it does. But then in that case, we don't make the parathyroid hormone. Now, if you remember, we have this up here, and what's going to happen here is this is going to go down and it's going to stimulate phosphokinase C, and phosphokinase C will also stop parathyroid hormone from being released into the bloodstream. And therefore, like we said, because parathyroid hormone is not released into the bloodstream, therefore we're not getting calcium absorbed or reabsorbed or taken out of the bone, right? So basically, that's it for parathyroid hormone. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and subscribe button, and we will catch you next time. Thanks for watching.